Hello, I'm James Daganix and welcome to Media Week. Ahead on the program, industry executives fronted a Senate committee this week calling for proposed media reforms to go further to help level the playing field. And a big week of deals for APN News and Media, including its full move to take ownership of AdShell. Now, of course, my co-host James Manning, editor and publisher of Media Week, is here to take us through all the stories, plus plenty more. But first, Seven Network has unveiled its 2017 offerings at its news fronts this week, with homegrown drama front and centre. Seven's also aiming to dominate when it comes to its sport offerings. Well, for more on the network strategy, we're joined by Seven's Director of Network Programming, Angus Ross. Angus, look, really appreciate you joining us this afternoon. Let's talk the upfronts, if we can, just to start with. And in particular, a quote I saw, the idea of innovate, disrupt or die being a strategy being adopted when it comes to programming. What does that mean? Just talk us through that.
I think it really means that we need to make our programming available absolutely everywhere for when people want to watch it on whatever device they prefer to watch that programming on. We certainly believe that good content will travel across every device that people wish to use.
Angus, there was a lot of content unveiled on this week at the upfront, but not a lot of new stuff because you've got a lot of returning hit programs, I guess, which you don't need to fiddle with too much.
Yeah, look, we got off to the start of the year with a flying start. We used My Kitchen Rules to launch a number of new shows like 7 Year Switch, First Dates, Wanted, the Rebecca Gibney drama series. So, and the back end of the year, we've had more 800 Words. We've had Secret Daughter being the #1 new drama on Australian television. So we've got a lot of options for next year in terms of returning programs. And, you know, we have the option of rolling them out again at the start or rolling them out later in the year.
A lot of the focus as well on local content, locally produced content. Do you find that's actually something that is very much a desire from audiences? Because it certainly seems to be gathering momentum. Yeah,
look, I don't think it's any secret that a lot of the overseas programming doesn't perform as well as it used to in this market. And we know that Australians have a desire for localised programming, and that's what we're investing more in than ever before.
We talked about My Kitchen Rules and how that's become a real powerhouse for you, and it starts off every year. You're spending more, it seems, on drama miniseries next year. Does that mean you sort of, because you had a few sort of, I guess, reality programs that didn't perform as well, maybe as obviously like My Kitchen Rules. So is that maybe one of the lessons you've learned this year, that you might spend a little bit more on those sort of tentpole dramas?
I think the great thing about those event miniseries is that they are events, and you can lock people into a night of television just to come to that miniseries, and that also helps you perhaps get other shows off the deck as well at the same time. So they are great, like you say, tent poles for certain points throughout the year. So yeah, we've got more of them next year. We've got 4 miniseries in the works. We've got Blue Murder, we have Olivia Newton-John, Warnie, and we're kicking the year off with Hogs, the Paul Hogan story.
What is the big drive behind doing it on real people, if you like? I mean, obviously we did it. I think In Excess was a good one for you. Going back was obviously a music band, but we saw Peter Brock's one. I'm not sure that performed quite so well, but there seems to be a big push for
this. But it can be a challenge too if you think of the Gina Reinhardt one and the legal problems. Have you got to be aware of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, you obviously have to be cognizant of all of that when you're making one of these. But we've had a pretty good track record in these miniseries. You mentioned Molly, In Excess, Peter Allen. We also had great success with the Ivan Milat miniseries, Catching Milat. So I think the people have to be iconic, whether for good reasons or bad reasons. They're people that have captured Australia's imagination at some point in time.
One of the highlights, James, of this week was the show with no name. I just wonder if Angus can tell us any more than the chief executive could last night. A reality show, something to do with people getting married, but they didn't really let out much more. And partly, tell us why you can't really.
Well, the show's currently in production, and we obviously we don't want the participants to know the name of the show and have that influence any of their behaviour over the course of that show.
Okay, but they do know they're being filmed.
They are aware they're being filmed. Yes,
it's not a hidden camera.
It's not the Truman Show. No.
Okay.
No.
One of the other things I liked quickly was that the flip program. I think the house, the real estate,
Aussie property flippers,
property flippers. So it's a red hot sector, and
yeah,
seems to do well on television.
Yeah. Look, we're obviously in kind of that space with House Rules, but this is a complementary show. We think that looks at people who restore houses over short periods of time for hopefully large financial gain. And it's an obdoc where we'll be following some of the best property flippers in Australia. What
about sport? Just a mainstay, if you like, in terms of network programming. 2017-18, again, looking to be big years for Seven. Yeah, look, we presented our sport sort of 18, 20 months out. It's along with local programming and news, sport is one of our three pillars, if you like. So, of course, we kick every year off with the Australian Open. Next year, we've also got the Rugby League World Cup at the back end of the year. Then in 2018, it's the big one with Winter Olympic Games leading sort of directly into the Brisbane Commonwealth Games. And, we obviously feel those are fantastic launch pads. Nothing beats live sport. It's piracy-proof. The only way you can get it is on Seven.
And that's a double win, isn't it, if you're a programmer, because it fills some of those hours you don't have to worry about.
It certainly does.
And it lets you promote all your other shows too.
I love the sports guys and everything they do.
The Olympics generally come with enormous price tags. Do they pay off in the end when it comes to ratings and what you can sell around it in terms of advertising?
We were absolutely wrapped with the ratings we achieved for the Olympics, both on broadcast and streaming, and our sales guys are very happy with it. In the new fronts, you would have seen all of our clients who were involved in that were extremely happy with the performance of the Olympics, and it really moved the needle in terms of their sales.
Tell us about programming trends, if you like. Tim Warner also talked about true crime as being a sort of hot again, if you like, as a sector, whereas maybe those competitive performance shows like X Factor, Dancing with the Stars, maybe not as hot as they were, potentially going to be rested and tried again in a few years' time? Yeah,
look, you have to, obviously, Dancing with the Stars, we've decided not to proceed with that next year. A lot of those shows come with very high price tags, and you have to run the ruler over them, do your cost-benefit analysis and say, do we really think we can get the best value from that or from another genre? True crime is hot again. We were talking before about US programming. You've got to fill those slots that used to be filled with US programming with something else, and Australian true crime is something that we see a lot of potential in. We've got 2 new series next year. The first is Murder Uncovered, which is from 7 News and Mark Llewellyn producing. If you think of the Anita Cobby special we ran earlier this year as a template, that's what that's going to look like. New revelations on crimes that really shocked Australia. And we've also got another series from 7 Productions called $1 Million Cold Case, which is looking at these cold cases that have not been solved, and $1 million reward is being put up for those, and we're reinvestigating those cases. And we're very hopeful that actually some of them are going to be busted wide open in the course of the production.
All right, Angus Ross, appreciate you joining us today. It sounds like plenty to keep viewers watching over the next couple of years. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, media bosses step up calls for industry reform to help them take on global competitors. Details of this week's Senate inquiry is next.
Sheets, profit and loss. My mind doesn't function the way yours must.
The accountant, he has evaded every government agency. Multiple identities. He's incredibly dangerous.
Everyone's hiding something.
Who are you?
What is this?
I don't discuss client business.
The accountant.
I can see you. Come on.
Do it again.
1 Million and Lady Million. Fragrances by Paco Rabanne. Now discover 1 Million and Lady Million Privé.
People think and connect in many different ways. We help people and organizations to understand this and communicate better. The Bankwest Connect series is a great resource. It is information that you can take and implement straight away. I feel that Bankwest has been there step by step on our business journey.
Bankwest, making banking easier by knowing your business, not just your banking.
Woolworths World Explorers have arrived, and with this amazing interactive map, you can literally bring the world to life. Woolworths World Explorers. That's for you. That's why I pick Woolies.
What makes Ring the world's most advanced doorbell? Ring lets you see and speak to whoever's at your door from your smartphone.
Hello?
Package from Mrs. Taylor.
Oh, great. You can just leave it by the front door.
Okay. Save you a trip to the post office.
Ring works off your home Wi-Fi network. It's easy to install and runs off a built-in battery or connected to your power supply. With Ring, you're always home. Available at ring.com and these major retailers.
0% on purchases with 0% on balance transfers from NAB for 15 months made it easier for Lisa to say yes to Laura's wedding. Because life happens.
NAB credit cards. Apply now.
Kia's 7-day sale is on now. On top of great drive-away deals, receive a free $500 gift card across the range. Plus, Australia's only 7-year warranty. Hurry, Kia's 7-day sale ends Monday.
On Spears Tonight, I'm live from Washington in the final fortnight of this extraordinary presidential race. Hillary Clinton is ahead in the polls, but is there any chance of Donald Trump staging a last-minute comeback? Spears Tonight, Sky News Live.
Welcome back to the program. My co-host James Manning, editor and publisher of Mediaweek, of course, is here. More from James in just a moment. First, though, industry executives fronted a Senate committee this week calling for proposed media reforms to go further to help level the playing field. Seven West's media chief executive Tim Warner called for a more comprehensive package and said networks won't support the bill in its current form.
Holistic reform is what is required to help our industry compete with global competitors who are simply not playing on the same playing field that we are. They're playing with a different set of rules, and this, this bill on its own doesn't address that. It may be of use to one or two players for one or two deals, but it doesn't do anything for our entire industry. We wouldn't even regard it as reform. We would regard it as minor changes, and what we're seeking is wholesale reform that will actually assist all the players across the industry.
Meanwhile, Fairfax Media CEO Greg Hywood took a swipe at rival News Corp when he faced the committee. He also acknowledged the impact global social media giants are having on the local sector.
There have been several issues canvassed publicly since the initial inquiry, and one of the most persistent has been the pervasive and increasing influence of the giant global search engines and social media platforms on the Australian media industry. From Fairfax Media's point of view, the extent of which these organisations based offshore are diverting advertising revenue away from and undermining Australian media companies that invest in local content and journalists and pay taxes. This is one of the prime justifications for abolishing the current 2 out of 3 restriction. This artificial and outdated restriction is a disincentive to investment in the Australian media and a severe brake on our ability to compete against global competition. Well, just to give you a context for that, research out of the US shows that 85% of new display advertising coming into the US market is now going to Google and Facebook. So that's the extent of the issue. The traditional media companies, the publications like us, originally had 2 main sources of revenue. One was classified advertising and one was display advertising. And as we know, over-the-top players have come into the market, REA, Seek, car sales, to have taken that classified component, which was, for Fairfax, probably 60 to 70% of our revenues. About another 25 to 30% was display advertising. Now, most of that is now going to Google and Facebook, so you get a dimension of the issue, that we're attempting to invest in Australian media, we're attempting to provide jobs for journalists, which provide the transparency that is so valuable to this community, on a smaller and smaller amount of money. So therefore, if you're restricted at amortising your content just around a small range of available platforms, it restricts your ability to monetise that content effectively or to its maximum. So what we're asking for is the optionality. That doesn't mean necessarily that free-to-air and Fairfax get together, but it does provide us that option if that improves the economics of our business. And we're really just asking for being able to make that choice if it's economically viable and to the advantage of our businesses, so that we can invest in journalism. Because what we want to do is provide at-scale journalism. You know, we've had a number of offshore players come into this market, you know, Guardian, you know, Mail Online, etc. They'll provide a handful of journalists, you know, 10 to perhaps 50 for some of them. Fairfax puts in the order of 1,300 journalists a day into the market. Right? This is at-scale journalism. This is the sort of dimension of journalism that you need to provide the transparency that I'm talking about. That is becoming more and more difficult to afford. And our business, you know, we have taken hundreds of millions of dollars worth of costs out of our traditional business to keep being able to afford that. We've absolutely focused on maintaining the maximum number of reporters in the field that we possibly can. So most of the costs have come out of other areas. But unless we can continue, right, to monetise our content unless we can monetise our content in all available ways, the pressures just become greater and greater. Well, I think it's more than an influence upon our business. It's an influence across the broader community. They provide social media interaction, as in Facebook. Google provides a search. If you want to search something, you can search where it is or where a restaurant is, etc. But they provide no journalism. They provide no content. What we do is we provide journalism and content into the community. So we do advertise, but we also give back into the community. So I suppose our issue is that you've got these large global companies taking the advertising out of the market but not putting anything else back in. I think everything helps.
Yeah.
I think we're just in an environment where we're restricted while others aren't. Right? So the organisations that are taking the bulk of the advertising out of the market operate with absolutely no restrictions to build their businesses further.
Yeah.
What we are is that we are, as I say, providing this public good, but are hamstrung in terms of actually trying to develop our business so that we can continue to do what we do. And I don't think anybody doubts the importance of journalism and the importance of transparency to the community.
Greg Hywood, the CEO of Fairfax Media, a little bit earlier this week. Of course, my guest host, James Manning, editor and publisher of Media Week. It's hard not to feel, you know, I sympathise greatly with a lot of what Greg Hywood had to say.
Oh, look, absolutely, you know, but I just don't get the feeling we may be making much advancement, though, because it's a message they've been saying for quite a while, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You know, and so what happens then in the end? Are we going to have some more?
How long have we been talking about media reform for? I mean, is it anywhere near...
Well, you would like to think so, but you still don't get that feeling we're on the cusp of something, do you?
No, and interesting for him as well, talking about potential M&A opportunities, again referencing the idea of a tie-up with one of the networks.
Yeah, absolutely. And he said, look, we'd love to explore, every opportunity. Whether we proceed with it or not is another matter.
Yeah, let's talk one of the other media companies, slightly different one in APN News and Media. Kieran Davies announcing that they're going to buy I think it's 50% of ad share that
they don't own. $268 million deal. Expensive little share of outdoor, isn't it? And they, for a company that used to be known for a regional newspaper publisher a few years ago, done very well expanding their, their radio holdings, sold off the newspapers, or they're in the process of selling them. Just shows you that the price for this outdoor is a lot more than the newspapers. It sort of seem like a bargain when you compare it. So it's a very hot sector, outdoor.
Yeah, and clearly they think it's going to continue because the pricing around the raising a little bit diluted, and we're seeing a bit of a sell down in their shares.
Absolutely.
The big one, global play though, the AT&T and the Time Warner, just a lazy $85 billion US. Wow. Big deal.
Not a lot different to what I think 21st Century Fox was offering, probably less than 2 years ago. Would this have any more chance of passing regulatory hurdles? Possibly. But a lot of US executives have been talking to the media this week, sort of seem to think the deal mightn't get through.
Oh, is that right? I know there's been some political backlash against it, in particular coming from the Democratic side of the political stream over there.
Yeah. But telcos are very keen to get,
It's all about content, right?
Yeah, just lock those customers into a package that's going to sort of make the customer think, look, I'm just going to stay with AT&T, so they offer me so much, I'm not going to go to the opposition.
Mamma Mia, expanding into sports, automotive, travel and finance reporting next year.
Yeah, look, they've had their upfronts this week too, It's not just the big free-to-airs that get out there. We've seen them from News Corp earlier this year. We covered the Come Together event. And Mamma Mia saying, look, last year they talked about US expansion. They've also launched a very successful podcast division, which is racking up some big numbers. So they're going to expand further. They're splitting their editorial teams into two. So, just a very successful business that Mia Friedman just started off with their own skills, virtually as a one-person blogger, and just built this attractive little empire.
Yeah, it's been extraordinary, the level of success. So let's move on from some of that media news to check in on ratings for the week. This is for week 43, kicking off with Free to Air. The Block taking out the title, the week 43. 7 News, the Sunday edition, and then 9 and a couple more blocks back to form for Channel 9.
Yeah, look,
I have to say I watch it.
Doing fantastic business. Just one series this year. Look, I think we've got about a week to go before they auction those Melbourne apartments, and it'll be fascinating to see that in that current, there's still a bit of fever around the real estate market.
Yeah.
I think we'll see some big prices because they're big apartments.
They're huge apartments. Very jealous. Let's take a look at how subscription television shaped up in terms of ratings. It's nice to see the Wallabies topping the list for the ratings. It's been a long time since we've seen something like that.
Yeah, you'd probably rather see them win a game than win the ratings,
actually,
wouldn't you?
I would take the win over the ratings. Very, very true.
But there's still an audience for them, win or lose, I guess.
And the supercars continue to do very well.
Yeah, they did fantastic. It was on last week's chart, the Saturday meeting. And this was the Sunday races, did fantastically well. Lifestyle still there, Grand Design's doing very well. And Australia's the next top model, which is, getting towards the selection of the winner this year.
All right, let's have a little bit of a TV chat because it's dominated headlines, it seems, for the industry for a couple of weeks or so, and that is the it's certainly disputed, but the idea that today Channel 9's morning show has won the ratings for the year, something that is in dispute by Seven, and certainly if you believe some of the reports around today, is perhaps at the heart of some legal action. Yeah,
there's I think it's the federal court set down for Friday this week. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of settlement before then, because I just got a feeling both networks don't want to be seen to be brawling over what some people think is perhaps a trivial thing. But I mean, the background is that these programs generate a fair bit of revenue, pull big audiences, and it's important for the channel's news brand, which is key to their prime time. So they serve multiple purposes. The takeaway for me is, look, Nine's done very well to get their show back in the discussion, if you like, competitive again. The takeaway for both of them is they're both doing well because there's two big shows that are sort of battling for supremacy, and if you're an advertiser, you've got to take notice of both of them.
And some news for 10 as well, casting for new castaways. They're going to go again with Australian Survivor?
Yep, absolutely. Yep, they confirmed that. They've got their up front in just under 2 weeks, I think. No, or is it a week? So anyway, it's not far away. But yeah, that Survivor finished. Did very well. Look, I loved it. I really got involved. Yeah. No, it was good. I mean, it's hard. You've got to commit to those hours. And it was only three hours a week, so I managed to squeeze that into my schedule, James. But look, it did very well. It was very well produced. Fantastic outcome. I think sponsors will be very happy to jump onto this next year, and I think we'd possibly see that franchise grow.
I did see the challenge, the final challenge, which lends me to wanting to watch next year. The idea of standing on like a little wooden pole.
6 hours, wasn't it?
6 hours holding onto a rock or something.
And it was amazing, and quite a dramatic end to it, wasn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, it was looked good. James, that's brings us to the end. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
James Manning, the editor and publisher of Mediaweek. That's it for the show for this week from the entire team here. Thanks for your company.